Good evening. It's 8 o'clock. There are lots of headlines this Monday, but the big one we're focusing on is what's currently happening in Sri Lanka. Shrija is there live at the various VIP homes that have been thrown open. They're now sightseeing destinations. More on that in just a moment, but first, the top headlines tonight. The rupee is in free fall. It's nearly at the 80 rupees as per the dollar mark. A strengthening dollar drags all currencies down. The RBI, meanwhile, allows international trade settlement in rupees. Pool parties, singing, piano and secret bunkers. NDTV reports from Colombo inside Sri Lanka's VIP homes. Sri Lanka's VIP palaces now open to all. Meanwhile, the President and the Prime Minister are expected to resign in 2 days amid reports that the President has flown to the Sri Lankan airbase. India's national emblem unveiled on the new Parliament building, cast in bronze. The total weight is 9,500 kilos. The Prime Minister unveils the emblem, offers puja with the Speaker. The new Parliament building to be ready by October. India to be the world's most populous country by next year, 2023. India to overtake China by next year, says a UN report. Uddhav's Shiv Sena is likely to support the NDA presidential candidate Rupee Murmu. Uddhav meets his MPs. 14 of 19 Lok Sabha MPs attend. They say support Rupee Murmu as president because she's a tribal woman. With Thackeray likely to back Murmu and Sharad Pawar Yashwant Sinha, is that the sign of the first MVA rift? Blows, burning tyres and chaos at the AIADMK meeting as ex-Chief Minister OPS is expelled. Jay's choice for Chief Minister twice when she was alive, he's now expelled as EPS takes control of the party and Jayalalitha's legacy. Very heavy rain in Gujarat, Telangana and Madhya Pradesh. Delhi gets a monsoon preview, but then rain stops. Our lead story tonight, well, Shrija is reporting live from Sri Lanka's VIP homes. As from the presidential palace to the Prime Minister's residences, all have been thrown open for the public to come and see what really the President and the Prime Minister live like, and especially the presidential palace. Shrija, tell us what it's been like for you through today.
Well, the presidential palace now, it's open to public. And what's more important to note, today being a working day, we saw more crowd because that's not something we saw at least about 2 days ago. The crowd just kept swelling and swelling. Several families, it was almost like picnic-like spots because you had several, kids, families, a couple coming with their kids, children, to take a look at how Gotabaya Rajapaksa lived in this presidential palace. But also at the same time, what we did, of course, witness was especially several furniture, was completely damaged. Most of the properties inside the presidential palace was ransacked, and that is also because several of the protesters had made their way, a forced entry into this particular presidential palace. We spoke to quite a few families, a few citizens, while they were, taking a glimpse of what really a luxury life that Gotabaya Rajapaksa lived. When we spoke to them, what they say was this is a luxury that they have never ever, at least experienced. And this is the very first time that they are seeing that something like this exists. They also went down to vent their frustration out by talking about where they have been standing even as we speak, waiting in long serpentine queues for cooking gas and for fuel. The country has run out of medicines, essentials like food as well. When the country is undergoing such an economic turmoil, a meltdown, when people are standing out in the streets, the people are questioning how can these politicians live in luxury. Now both the temple trees of Ranil Wickremesinghe has also been thrown open to public. It's swarming with people out there. And this is what, when we also stepped into both the luxury properties, political properties, this is what we found. probably never in the political history of Sri Lanka someone would have witnessed where, citizens, common man, would have just breached the heavily guarded presidential palace to explore and catch a glimpse of what a luxury life Gotabaya Rajapaksa was actually living. Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's presidential palace has become a tourist spot. This, of course, looks like a cupboard, but it is not one, because it opens and it leads to several floors, at least 2 floors down. Now, what we are going to do is just to show you like this, which the protesters have termed it as a secret bunker, but there is also a lift that operates through this particular secret bunker. As you just take these stairs to the ground floor, that is to the bottom floor, what we see is that there is one particular door that we spot. Now this, of course, which we understand, though the protesters have managed to break open several doors, managed to destroy, several properties inside within the presidential palace, there is one which they could not, of course, dismantle or break open. That is this particular door that you see right here. What several of the protesters, of course, have questioned is what can Gotabaya Rajapaksa be hiding inside this particular door? What could be behind this particular door? Now, that's the question, especially, quite a lot of citizens would like to know. From enjoying the swimming pool to, playing a piano and then attending press conferences of their own, of the citizens themselves. Now, clearly, the citizens are having a time inside a luxury life, which they call it, which once Gotabaya Rajapaksa had enjoyed in this very location. If I could go across to a few citizens, what do you make of this?
It's the power of the common people, undoubtedly, because it's the power. That's what made us come here, because normal people would never have access to places like this before. So it's all the power of the common people.
It's very proud. Now we showed the politicians they are here to govern us, for us to become better, not to use us for their lives. They just made their lives better and they pushed us to the brink. And we waited until we lost everything to realize that we have to take it back.
You have explored through the presidential palace. What did you see?
I saw that they are having a luxury life than us. Actually, we are leading a very poor life. So we saw that how they are living and how they have everything they have. So we don't have anything.
Amazing moments and visuals there coming out of Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, the other big headline tonight is the rupee's new record low. It's now at touching distance of 80 rupees to the dollar. Priyanshi has the latest on what the dollar strengthening has meant for the rupee and other currencies. Priyanshi.
Sonia, our currency is now just about half a rupee away from reaching 80 rupees per dollar. Rupee slumped to a record low of 79.43 per dollar and it lost 18 paise in this session, and with this it's down by 7% just this year. The bad news for the economy does not end. Our foreign exchange reserves are shrinking. They're down to a 14-month low at $588 billion. Rupee's free fall could take it to 80 rupees per dollar soon, even after the Reserve Bank announced steps to boost foreign inflows on Wednesday. Now, why is this happening and why is the Reserve Bank really targeting foreign inflows? It's because foreign funds leaving the Indian markets is one of the primary reasons dragging the rupee down. Because of the war in Ukraine, global fears of recession, rising inflation and interest rates make it risky for investors to keep their money in emerging economies such as India. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that because of this, the amount of foreign funds that have left India in just the 7 months this year is more than the total amount of foreign fund inflows that we received in the last 2 years combined, there's been a record foreign fund pullout of $28.9 billion this year. Now, where is all of this money going is a question. Investors take their money to stronger currencies such as the dollar. This is driving up the demand for the dollar and naturally taking up its rate. Of course, as dollar's value goes up, all currencies valued against it go down. And the problem could get worse. Global inflation fears could accentuate as US inflation data that will come out this week is projected to cross its 40-year high and reach 9%. It's not just the rupee, but currencies across the world, even those of developed economies, that are weakening because of the strengthening dollar. While rupee is at a record low, yen is at a 24-year low against the dollar, euro is at a 20-year low, pound is at a 2-year low, and the slump does not seem to end with the rising dollar, rising inflation and interest rate hikes. Sonia.
Priyanshi, thanks so much for that update. Meanwhile, in other news, Prime Minister Modi today unveiled the national emblem on the new Parliament building. So the national emblem there, a puja was also performed, which the opposition has attacked and asked why the Prime Minister unveiled this, because there's a clear division in the constitution between the executive, the parliament and the judiciary, the executive, the legislature and the judiciary. However, the BJP has said that these were all constitutional authorities. The emblem is cast in bronze on the new Parliament building, which will be ready by October this year.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveiled the national emblem cast on the roof of the new Parliament building. The inauguration of the emblem, which is made of bronze and weighs 9,500 kilograms and is 6.5 meters in height, marks the first major milestone ahead of the new building's scheduled opening for later this year. The national emblem took over 9 months to cast. Authorities have maintained that the Parliament's winter session will be held here. Officials say the emblem has been cast at the top of the central foyer of the new Parliament building. And a structure of steel weighing around 6,500 kilograms has been constructed to support it.
As far as that unveiling of the statue is concerned, so only those who were in the official statutory position, they were doing the unveiling, as you have already seen on the news channels.
Well, the other big headline, India is now projected to surpass China as the world's most populous country next year, according to a United Nations report. The report said that the world population is forecast to reach 8 billion by mid-November of 2022. The global population, however, is growing at its slowest rate since 1950, having fallen under 1% in 2020. The latest projections by the UN suggest that the world's population could grow to about 8.5 billion in 2030 and 9.7 billion in 2050. So with India all set to be the world's most populous country in 2023, what exactly does that mean in the comparison? Well, in 2050, India will be 1.7 billion, while China will be 1.3 billion. This, of course, as India's fertility rate has declined. Well, let's just go across the other big political headlines, and one of those is that Uddhav Thackeray called a meeting of all Sena MPs. There was a fair showing. There were MPs attended 16 out of a total of 22, 19 in the Lok Sabha and 3 in the Rajya Sabha. But interestingly, let's just go across to Saurabh Gupta for more on that, because first Sena MP who attended said that all the MPs agreed that they should support the NDA presidential candidate, Draupadi Murmu. Saurabh, what are the implications of that?
Well, yes, of course, the implications are to do with the tribal vote. And that's, of course, something that both the Shiv Sena and, of course, the rebel Shiv Sena wouldn't want to let go of. Now, in this context, what's happening is Uddhav Thackeray has to do a very tough balancing act. He has to save his party. He also has to get his people around him. And at the same time, the Sena has a vote bank amongst the tribal population. So, at a time when it's trying to retain cadre, when it's trying to retain the party around itself, not voting for Draupadi Murmu, who's going to be the first tribal woman president of the country and who already has the numbers in her favor, could be something that the BJP could later use to whip the Sena with in election time. And that's something that the Sena wants to avoid. 1. 2. All the MPs come from different constituencies where there is a significant tribal population. And the Sena counts tribal votes amongst its voters, which is why it wouldn't want to alienate that section and give the BJP a weapon to target it with when it's already facing such a huge internal crisis of its own.
So, of course, sort of the first indications that of a possible rift between the MVA, because we know that Sharad Pawar has very much been tweeting pictures of Yashwant Sinha and saying that we are all behind the opposition candidate. But, of course, you're also currently in Goa, where there's lots of action happening. And let's just look, because, of course, Goa was where there were sacred pledges being taken in temples, in churches. All the Congress MLAs also took a pledge in front of Rahul Gandhi. So, let's just look at the complete switch back and forth which is happening in Goa. So there we see it, Maharashtra redone almost in Goa with before oaths of loyalties at temples, at churches with the Congress ex-president Rahul Gandhi, and now defection looming with sort of, as we are saying, that the former chief minister, Congress chief minister Goa, Digambar Kamath, and Michael Lobo, who was an ex-BJP person before he joined the Congress, now being disqualified action against them. What's the latest? Why is it stalled? Because apparently the plans were that a majority of Congress MLAs would be joining the BJP.
That's right. You know, in fact, the BJP needed 8 Congress MLAs to switch sides to avoid attracting the provisions of the anti-defection law. That number 8 seems to have evaded them. Now, it's rainy weather in Goa and the political climate also is turbulent both in Maharashtra and Goa. But what the rebellion in the neighboring state of Maharashtra seems to have been successful with is getting that 2/3 number, whereas those who have fomented the rebellion here in Goa are still to reach that figure. Now, Congress sources say that they stepped in before this could really erupt and blow up in their faces. They spoke to MLAs. In fact, there's a CLP meeting that's still to happen. Mukul Vasnik is here. Dinesh Gundu Rao is here. These are senior Congress leaders who are in charge of Goa. But Digambar Kamath leading rebellion in the Congress in Goa, well, like they say, anything is possible in Goa politics. But this was really, one man who has been in the Congress for years now. But let's not forget, he has a small past in the BJP as well. So, like they say, you can't really say what's happened. The Congress seems to have averted it for now, but for how long, that's anyone's guess.
मुझे लगता है सीटी रवि जी सीनियर लीडर है, गोवा में बहुत बार आते हैं, गोवा का अच्छे से उनको परिचय भी है. मुझे लगता है गोवा के बारे में बात करने से पहले उन्होंने 10 बार सोचना चाहिए, क्योंकि मैंने उनका स्टेटमेंट देखा था. उन्होंने बोला गोवा के कांग्रेस के 12 एमएलए हमारे संपर्क में हैं. मैं उनको याद दिलाना चाहता हूँ कि गोवा में कांग्रेस के 12 नहीं 11 एमएलए हैं. ये पहली बात है. तो यहीं से पता चलता है कि उनके फैक्ट्स जो है वो सही नहीं है. यस, वो चाहते हैं कि पूरे देश में एक ओपोजिशन ना रहे, ओपोजिशन को तोड़ें, ओपोजिशन को जो आवाज़ है वो कहीं दबाया जाए. उनकी कोशिश थी, वो हमने उनकी कोशिश जो है वो ना सफल और नाकामयाब होने के लिए हमने we have tried our level.
To comment on any situation which I am not aware of and I am not a part of. As far as the Congress party is concerned, it's an internal matter of the Congress party, which the Congress has to handle. As far as the Bharatiya Janata Party is concerned, I am not aware what has happened and what is going on. I was sitting in my cabin yesterday also, but whatever is the situation, I mean, everybody is a mature adult, but I don't think Bharatiya Janata Party has got any role to play on any of these issues.
Everyone's a mature adult, but let's just look at what happened in Chennai today in the AIADMK leadership battle, which turned physical. There were blows, stones, burning tires, everything possible, as ex-Chief Minister OPS lost the AIADMK leadership fight, once appointed by Jayalalithaa as her virtual successor. Today he's been ousted by EPS, who said there's no place for any dual leadership in the AIADMK.
Arson outside AIADMK headquarters as supporters of rival leaders O. Pannirselvam or OPS and Edappadi Palaniswamy or EPS clashed, even as the Madras High Court ruled in favour of the party's General Council meet that OPS had challenged.
Edappadi
At the General Council meeting, EPS was named Interim General Secretary of the AIADMK. Even as OPS was evicted not only from the AIADMK party headquarters, but the party itself for alleged anti-party activities.
சில எட்டப்பர்கள் கட்சி தொண்டர்கள் நிர்வாகிகளுடைய எண்ணம் ஒற்றை தலைமை அதற்கு நீங்கள் இசைவு கொடுங்கள் கொடுக்கவே இரட்டை தலைமையால் எவ்வளவு கஷ்டப்பட்டது எனக்கு தெரியும்.
The AIADMK General Council decided to end dual leadership. This is likely to pave way for election of EPS as General Secretary in 4 months. A gigantic garland on a crane for EPS as it's a new beginning in the AIADMK. Interestingly, OPS, who was made Chief Minister twice by Jayalalithaa, stands expelled, and EPS, handpicked by Sasikala, crowned. With apprehensions of further violence, the authorities decided to seal the AIADMK party headquarters at Rayapeta. OPS is expected to go to court and the election commission, challenging the developments.
சட்டப்படி நீதிமன்றத்தின் மூலமாக நீதி வழங்குவோம். அவர்களுக்கு அதிகாரம் இல்லை. என்னை நீக்குவதற்கு அவர் அதிகாரம் இல்லை. ஏன்னா 1.5 கோடி தொண்டர்களால் நான் தேர்ந்தெடுக்கப்பட்டிருக்கிறேன்.
OPS, who has been seen as a leader close to the BJP, was targeted today for alleged links with the DMK.
OPS, agent of the DMK, by bringing anti-social elements to the party and stooped up to very low.
Backed by his Gounder community strong in western Tamil Nadu, EPS's elevation may mark the end of decades of dominance by the Tevar community from the southern region OPS and Sasikala belong to. EPS first had patched up with OPS, working out the dual leadership model to expel Sasikala. Now he has expelled OPS to capture the top job. Under the dual leadership, the AIADMK had suffered 3 successive poll defeats, largely in alliance with the BJP. The 2024 Lok Sabha elections would be an acid test for EPS's leadership. In Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, Find TV.
Well, let's go across also to the monsoon, which is pounding parts of India today, especially in Gujarat. Also a red alert in Telangana and also Maharashtra. From Gujarat, in Tapi, a bridge washed away in Ahmedabad. Water now coming into residential areas in Chota Udaipur. Low-lying areas are completely flooded. In other parts, waterlogging is now happening across parts of Gujarat. Also the situation very bad in parts of Maharashtra and in Telangana and Karnataka.
Flooding in Valsad town of Gujarat turned roads into rivers, and rescue teams on boats had to rescue those stranded. Heavy rains across the country saw, among other flooding, places of worship getting submerged, not just at Valsad in Gujarat but also Nashik in Maharashtra and Devipatnam in Andhra Pradesh East Godavari. In Telangana, after a red alert, non-stop rains in several districts of north and northeastern Telangana left water bodies full, roads flooded, vehicles got stranded. Those living in precarious tenements or by water bodies have been moved. Schools and colleges are closed for 3 days and people have been advised to stay indoors. Villages of Ratnaram moved uphill as their homes in the most affected Bhupalpally district got waterlogged. In Andhra Pradesh, rains in upper riparian states also added to the water bodies, the Krishna and Godavari getting overfull. Crest gates had to be opened at Prakasam Barrage to match inflows with outflows. Heavy rains forced schools to close in Vidisha district near Bhopal. Sausar town in Madhya Pradesh Chhindwara district got over 16 centimeters of rain in a single day, even as an orange alert has been sounded for 5 other districts.
विदिशा शहर में कुछ लोगों को रेस्क्यू भी किया गया है. लगभग 137 लोगों को उनके घरों से निकालकर स्कूलों में शिफ्ट किया गया, जिसमें से अब केवल 55 लोग बचे. बाकी सब जगह पानी नीचे उतर गया है. बेतवा नदी और नर्मदा के आसपास रहने वाले लोगों को ये निर्देश दिए गए हैं कि वो पूरी तरह सावधानी से रहें.
In Delhi, the much awaited rains are expected to be light to moderate and brought much cheer. With bureau inputs, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.